Magandang umaga, magandang tanghali, magandang hapon, magandang gabi sa inyo lahat. Ako nga pala si Michael.
And ako nga pala si Brian. And kasama natin si JP or si John Paul Ada, a Microsoft MVP for Artificial Intelligence. And this is the Battle of Clouds.
So, JP, kamusta ka naman? Tell us something about yourself. What do you do? And what are your passions?
Hi, yeah, I'm feeling great. Hey everyone, sa mga nakikinig, hello sa inyo. My name is JP and I'm one of the Microsoft MVPs for Artificial Intelligence, and currently I'm a data engineer at IBM. So, as a data engineer, what I do at work every day is work on a whole process of, for example, a customer does something, tapos it goes through a whole pipeline of data and transformations until bumalik kay user ulit. So that's what I deal with at work. So I work with data pipelines as a data engineer. Then so that's what I do.
All right.
Actually, may additional question lang. So far naman, kamusta naman? Okay ka naman sa work mo? I mean, dealing with AI, is it really something that you would really love to do all your life, or
In my case kasi currently we're not actively building AI kasi may built na AI. Well, to some extent there's already a built model. So what we do is just peruse that model. So what happens is so all the data transformation, kasi like, you know, when you think about it, 90% of AI is data. So that's the important part. So if you don't have good data coming in, so that's going to be an issue. So yung ginagawa namin is to make sure that the data coming in there is the data that it needs. Kasi usually what happens is a user does something, pero pagdating dun sa system natin, it does not have all the information that we need. So what will happen then is we will enrich that data. We will transform that data using the data the business already has, in order for to make the data relevant enough for the model to make a decision. So
it
that's
seems
Okay.
yun.
it seems like there's a lot of things happening, pero again, I'm not really an AI guy, so hindi ko sobrang naiintindihan. Pero yeah, it sounds like it's really kind of like meticulous job to have. So yeah, so Michael,
Oo.
ano ba?
Tsaka ano rin, 'di ba? I mean, I would say AI is already part of our day-to-day life, 'di ba? Yung mga lahat ng recommendations na nakikita mo sa mga e-commerce sites and all
Like your
those, you know.
Netflix.
'Di ba? Recommendations sa Netflix, 'di ba? It's all, you know, part of our lives now. But then, so ang topic natin ngayon specifically is yung AI on cloud, 'di ba? So nandun pa rin yung concept ng cloud. So JP, what are your thoughts when we say AI on cloud, 'di ba? And probably give us a one-liner or two-liner ng ano ba yung AI, machine learning, and yung mga other jazz about it, and how is it relevant sa cloud?
So when we talk about AI, it's, you know, from the name itself, artificial intelligence. So usually when we deal with intelligence here, we're assuming sentient not just sentient, right, na beings like humans, but also like animals, for example. So AI would be trying to simulate the cognitive faculties of creatures, as long as they are deemed to have intelligence. So basically it tries to so if you don't know, I'm a psychology major. I'm actually a BA psychology graduate. So when you think about the human mind, so basically what you have are the ABCs. So A is for affect, meaning emotions. B, behavior, how a creature acts, and C would be cognition, how a creature thinks. So ayun, so those are the ABCs of the human cognitive faculties, or you know, the how a creature thinks, basically intelligence, right? So yun. So trying to define, so if you try to give something that is built by humans, like a machine, for example, if you try to give it affect, or human like behavior or animal like behavior, or a way of thinking, So that's to some extent artificial intelligence. So now that is an all-encompassing So that is an all-encompassing na term. So then usually when we say AI, like yung buzz term, it's a buzz term now, 'di ba? Like AI, when you say AI, it's like parang yun yung ginagamit nila to sell startups maybe, ganon. So usually when they say that, they think about machine learning, and that's a subset of AI. So not all ML is AI, but not all AI is ML. So not all AI is machine learning. Kasi you can basically do it parang it's a joke sa community. It's like if ganito, like it's just a list of if statements, but technically in AI that's yes, because you can like simulate like the very first AIs like Eliza, I think that was Eliza. Parang it's like ginagamit siya sa clinical setting for like talking to patients, like parang counseling to some extent, ganun. So yung that time like wala pang sophisticated na AI, we don't have like super powerful computing resources. So what happens there is if statements lang siya. That's basically it. So that's technically AI
Like,
still.
Okay. So yung kanina nating example nung Netflix tsaka e-commerce. So hindi talaga AI yung mga yon, di ba?
Yeah, but it falls that is AI. But because ML is a subset of AI. Right? So if it's a machine learning, if it's something under machine learning, that is under AI. So those recommendation engines are AI.
So na-mention mo rin kanina yun sa if else, puro mga if else statement, nested if else statement. So technically that is still AI.
Yeah, technically that is still AI because parang nagsisimulate ka ng decisions eh. So for example, if a user says this, so pwede ka if ganito, ito yung i-respond mo. So that's technically AI.
Okay.
Right?
So,
Because you're trying to simulate a human.
Okay, so I think na-mention mo rin kasi kanina yung very first AI, So yung very first AI na ba yun, I'm assuming hindi naman siya nasa cloud, di ba? So nasaan siya? Paano siya ginawa?
Ano lang siya, parang it's just a program na computer. Ay, hindi naman siya yung technically yung very first AI, pero isa siya sa mga very first notable na AI.
First.
Yep.
Okay, so
okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Hindi, sige, naisip ko lang di ba? Parang yung naging breakthrough ng AI and cloud na parang saan sila talaga nagkatugma and how do they, help each other or meron bang synergy between them?
Yeah, okay. So this ganito yung advantage niya. Kasi when we're dealing with machine learning, right, we need to there are movements to make may mga research na yun na yung ginagawa nila is to be able to run like very to be able to train very powerful AI in just a normal gaming laptop. So there are movements like that. Pero traditionally, what the problem is for AI is, again, first data, second is your computing power, and that's a problem if magte-train ka ng data just on your laptop or even in a few servers in an on-prem environment, right? So what cloud offers with regards to AI is the ability to scale and more powerful compute. Kasi what they do is they have how do I make this simple? I can't, pero sasabihin ko na lang. Because sa games kasi, 'di ba? We have GPUs, right? For games.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So when you're printing graphics on screen, right? So what you do is that's usually you deal with matrices. So that's what you use. Kaya you need powerful powerful graphics cards for powerful graphics. If mag-high ka ng mga extreme games, ayun. So you need extreme matrix calculations for that, and that is why we need GPUs, because GPUs are really good at that. And so the some geniuses thought that since AI, most AI operations deal with matrices, kasi when you think about a matrix kasi para lang siyang table eh. And usually your data looks like that. Right? It's a table. It's a table of data. You have rows, you have columns. So that's a matrix. So since GPUs are really good at matrices, they made use of that for AI, for machine learning, for training models. Ayun. So that's the thing. Kasi like for example, tayo, if magte-train tayo ng AI sa on-prem systems natin, sa mga local na systems natin o sa laptop natin, we need powerful GPUs. So that's expensive. So what cloud offers is one of the parang selling points of the cloud is instead of yung CapEx, or like instead of buying everything up front, right? You can pay for just what you use, right? If you want to use a very powerful GPU, a computer with a very powerful GPU or very powerful specs, and you can just run it, you just want to run it for what, 2 to 3 hours or maybe a day, that will incur you just maybe $1 or $2 for that particular day, which is if yun lang yung kailangan mo, you don't need to buy the whole computer, diba? So you didn't need to spend thousands of dollars for powerful computers when you can just rent for like $2, $3 for a day. So that makes it cheaper. And if you want to use multiple computers, if you want to do it locally, then bibili ka pa ulit. Sa cloud, what you can do is just click of a button, and then you have another server at your disposal, right? So
actually banggitin ko lang din, no? Parang based from yung na-experience ko din, especially nung nabanggit mo about yung training aspect, di ba, ng models. If masyadong malaking data set mo, and kung masyadong yung ina-achieve mong score is relatively high, in retrospect, diba, it will take a long time on a specific machine, diba? It's either you, diba, maging simpler yung operation, or you make a bigger machine, diba? Ganun yung parang analogy nakita ko doon, diba? And I think tulad nga na nabanggit mo kanina, yung advantage ng cloud is yung elasticity nga na, let's say you need a very powerful GPU, instead of literally buying yung a machine and run yung GPU sa'yo. That might take days bago matrain yung model. Instead, pwedeng mag-rent ka na lang through the cloud and spend hours.
Yeah, definitely. That's easier and also like more cost effective. Kasi you're not wasting money on like just buying a computer upfront. And when you can just like do your like yung goal mo ma-achieve mo in just in a day, tapos multiple computers, tapos after that, poof, di mo na sila babayaran. Tapos you have your model na.
And besides sa training ng model, where do you think yung advantage pa ng paggamit ng cloud? Like for example, dun sa actual deployment, yung inference, nakakatulong din ba yung cloud doon?
Yeah, definitely. So I don't know for other clouds kasi, so pero sa Azure, sa Azure kasi we have the component that actually helps, the service that actually helps with all these related things is the Azure Machine Learning Service. So in that service, right, you create a workspace, and then so there are other steps, but then at the very end you deploy, right? You deploy, and then you have a choice kung ano yung gusto mong deployment. So you can say na i-deploy mo siya as an Azure container instance, or you can deploy it to an Azure Kubernetes service. So yun yung parang good part dito, yung Azure Kubernetes service. Kasi you don't have to really set it up. You just need to, yung sasabihin mo lang is ito yung magpo-provision ka ng Kubernetes cluster. That's it. Magpo-provision ka ng Kubernetes cluster. Tapos once sinabi mo na ito yung model ko, which has passed through the pipeline, tapos sasabihin ko na ito yung deployment target ko. I've already created an Azure Kubernetes cluster for this. So what happens it will be deployed there in the Azure Kubernetes service. Tapos yung advantage nito is Kubernetes siya. So what you get the benefits of Azure Kubernetes service, which is pwede parang scalability, and then load balancing, those kinds of things. So, and then fault tolerance, pag mamatay yung isang node mo, pag mamatay yung pod mo, may another pod na mag-handle ng requests mo, so you're always available. Yun.
I think ang isang napulot ko doon, JP, is that besides dun sa actual, training on demand ng model is parang given na ang matutulong din ng cloud is meron ng ready-made pipelines or mas madali nang gawin itong mga AI workflow, 'di ba? Through this defined pipelines, which probably mas mahirap siyang gawin on-prem.
Yeah, definitely. Kasi sometimes, although merong there are always open source tools for these kinds of things. Pero yun nga, you have to with the cost of that is development time to some extent. Tapos medyo basically.
And maintenance din, 'di ba? Kasi may ops team na dapat mag-handle nung mismong environment na 'yon, 'di ba? So, oo.
Although sa cloud kasi what happens is you can actually bring your if you already have this and you decide to make use of the flexibility and the scalability of the cloud, you can actually bring these open source ML pipelines or data pipelines into the cloud. So for example, if I recall correctly, Azure ML Service has native support for has good support for MLflow if gumagamit ka nun, or Kubeflow. So they have good support for that. For the others, hindi ko alam, pero you can just you normally can just drag it to the cloud naman.
Okay.
So I think medyo marami kayong napag-usapan about AI doon. I mean cloud services ni Azure. So na-mention mo kanina yung sa Azure machine learning eh. So how about sa AWS? May nagamit ka ba na parang counterpart noon?
No. Hindi ko yung pinakaunang cloud ko talaga nagamit sa AWS pero hanggang lang ako. Hanggang EC2 tapos S3 hanggang doon lang ako. So pero lately may mga din sila eh, may mga machine learning services din sila na actually when you pag familiar ka na sa isa sa mga clouds, it's basically the same everywhere.
That's true. That's true.
Actually, totoo naman yun eh. Parang nagkakaiba lang naman sila sa name, pangalawa sa kung paano mo setup, pangatlo is meron lang silang needs and pieces na unique dito sa isa na wala dun sa isa. Pero most of them, if not parang managed platform lang naman talaga sila, di ba?
And I think another question for me, well, obviously I'm not really that much of an AI guy. I'm more of a developer. Siguro for the for the other developers for listening or podcast. Ano ba yung mga services na ino-offer nitong mga cloud vendors na to na pwede namin gamitin na what if hindi ka talaga kami nagka-cloud but we just want to use maybe a cloud or an AI service.
Kumbaga mga SaaS na.
Oo, ganun.
Mga
Parang
pre-made
i-consume na lang
mga
namin.
software as a service.
Yeah,
Maraming
maraming ganun eh. So every cloud may ganun. So that's usually the collective term for them is cognitive services. So ito yung mga pre-made na mga services na pwede niyo nang gamitin, and also you can retrain them for your own purposes, like specific na dun sa use case mo. So you can do that as well. I'm not sure everywhere if that's possible, pero for some services, like for example, Azure and then Google Cloud, sigurado ako nakapag-retrain sila. Ayun. And also IBM Cloud, but that's not very popular. Pero since taga-IBM ako, alam kong nag-exist yun.
Ah.
Uh-huh.
Yun.
Uh,
So, ayun. I think okay, so yun. So, yung mga popular ones would be speech to text, text to speech, and then Vision API,
Vision, yes.
translator APIs. Yung isang unique na nakikita ko kay Azure is yung search API, yung sabihin. I'm not sure if a lot of people actually use that. Pero like also one thing I like sa is yung entity detection. Like like you have text, tapos i-determine niya itong entity na to, tapos like magbibigay siya ng link. For example sa internet. So that's one. Pero hindi siya like completely unique kay kay Azure, kasi nakita ko din yung kay IBM. May ganun din sila, pero it's not that, hindi siya super
Okay, I think just to adapt on that, yung nabanggit mo yung cognitive service, because I have a friend on Facebook na nagpo-post siya ng mga screenshots niya regarding sa mga ginagawa niya with AI, with the cognitive service na ina-offer ni Azure, na magawa siya ng Discord bot wherein kaya niyang mag-send ka ng picture mo, then automatically bibigyan ka niya ng result na kung masaya ba yung picture or yung tao sa picture, something like that. So it's a really great example na, and also obviously nakikita mo talaga dito na pwede mo talaga siyang i-integrate kahit saan, 'di ba? Even sa Discord, even sa sarili mong application, anywhere talaga. So yeah, I guess that's just really
And,
the power of AI.
Diba? Since nabanggit mo na rin yung bot, diba? JP, ano yung parang concept naman ng chatbot, and how does it relate sa AI, or how does it relate on cloud? And your thoughts about it in general.
Right, bots. Actually, like sakto lang kasi like I'm currently doing a series on that on actually building bots. So usually pero yung most ng mga like social media platforms ngayon, may like yung major, yung Facebook, like may na sila, built-in support na sila for that. Pero apart from that, usually what happens is what you do is, do sa Facebook, you need to create an app. Tapos you will interface with that app. Tapos what will happen is, if you talk to a bot in Facebook, it will transmit that message to an external server somewhere. So yan yung external server yung ibibuild mo. Yung application mo, yun yung ibibuild mo. Then si Facebook makipag-usap dun sa app mo, then ikaw ibabalik mo yung response. Depende may format na hinihingi si Facebook, especially with kung merong kasamang media. Ayun. So with bots, it's basically the same thing as they're also AI. Like when you make a request, the usual flow is you give it and this is similar to kasi super maraming parang ways to build bots, and maraming platforms for building bots. Lahat ng major players on the AI space, meron silang parang
Bot builder.
bot builders. Yeah, kay Azure it's literally bot builder. Kay Dialogflow, kay Google, and sa Facebook meron siyang sarili niya, and I'm not sure kay Amazon siguro meron. Sigurado ako meron. Tapos kay IBM we have Watson. Ayun. So
Kay AWS, which is Lex.
Lex. Okay.
Which is derived kay Alexa.
Oh, okay. Ayun. So yun. So may mga different ways to build bots. So what basically is pero medyo similar din yung mga workflows nila. So what happens is you need to give it a sentence, for example, and you tell it what's the intent, right? So ano yung intent nitong ano na to? Nitong sentence na to? Ano yung ibig sabihin nito? For example, sabihin mo, what's the weather today? Sasabihin mo yung intent niya is weather query. Ayun. So tapos then you can specify ano yung entities in that sentence. So for example, sasabihin mo, what's the weather today? So yung today is yung entity mo, which is yung date. What's the date today? What's the weather today? Tapos pwede mo sabihin, what's the weather yesterday or tomorrow kung predictive siya. So yun yung entity mo. Pero that's the basic flow. So given a sentence, the bot will have to try to figure out what do you mean? What does the user mean? Ano yung intent niya with that sentence? Tapos and then the bot will try to find ano dapat yung response, which is pino-provide mo. Sometimes you have to program it yourself, pero a lot of times parang pwede mo na siyang i-automate within the platform itself. So and then yung pinaka genius na part dito is yung hindi ko pa masyado na gets conceptually, pero what's something that interesting that happens is yung conceptual siya. So sasabihin mo, parang contextual. So when you say what's the weather today, and then mag-answer siya, tapos sasabihin mo what about tomorrow. So hindi mo sinabi literally na what's the weather tomorrow. Sinabi mo lang
So
na
may context
what
siya
about
dun
tomorrow.
sa previous na
Yes.
question.
Yes, exactly. So it has it knows the context na about sa weather pa rin yung pinag-uusapan. So that's also one amazing thing. So yun, so some like for example sa Azure, these things usually are made easier na by the services na nag-exist. Kasi usually, for example, if may bot ka, usually nagtatanong ka sa bot or usually that's what you do, 'di ba? Nagtatanong ka, you get answers. So to make this simple, meron tayong like for example, Azure Q&A maker. So yung ginagawa nun is you just specify an FAQ page, or you can supply the questions yourself. Tas ano yung answers do sa questions. Tapos the good thing is even if iba yung even if wala siya dun sa FAQ page yung exact na question, pero like similar yung meaning, it will be able to get the answer pa rin kahit na yun. So
I actually remember building one with the Q&A maker. And in a few minutes, meron agad akong bot na nasasagot yung mga even yung mga hi, hello, and how are you, mga ganun. And even meron silang iba-ibang
personalities.
kind of like personalities, 'di ba? Pwede kang pwedeng yung parang mapagbiro, pwedeng serious talaga if you're maybe you're building it for a kind of like an enterprise company. So it's really great actually. Ang ganda ng pagkakagawa doon.
And I think I mean it all falls into, 'di ba? Kasi subsidized na yung mga services, like mas madali na siya compare before. Siguro kung walang advent ng cloud or hindi talaga siya nag-pave the way, 'di ba? Para it will still, in order to create those services, kailangan pa rin natin mag-install ng sarili nating servers, mag-set up ng sariling OS, 'di ba? And so on and so forth. So the good thing about AI on cloud in general, 'di ba? Pwede siya through IaaS, through PaaS, through SaaS. And I think andun talaga na ang daming opportunities right now to work on this. Siguro JP and Bri, just to wrap up itong podcast, is I would just like to ask JP yung mga lessons learned, yung mga how to get started, 'di ba? Na parang mga caveats na na-experience mo when learning. So, ayun.
Right. So to get started, I think I think it's good to get a feel of it, like what it is able to produce, or what is AI capable of. So that's one thing. So I think you can, if you want to get started quickly with AI, you can what you can do is try out the cognitive services. So si Azure, meron siyang you have the $200 credit when you register, and also there's also, if you're a student, merong Azure for students, you can check that out. So para may credits kayo to try things out. Pero I think it's good to start from top down. So you can start from like cognitive services, and then slowly go to like building AIs using your frameworks, right? Especially yung mga high level muna, mga high level like for example Keras or scikit-learn. So that should be okay. Tapos and then you go deeper and deeper. Ayun. So until maintindihan mo talaga yung yung how these things work. Pero usually for in a business setting, the higher level, the top level na stuff are good enough. Usually they would yield enough results unless it's a problem na hindi pa na-solve before. Then dun ka mag-dive deeper sa like the concept itself, so you know what exactly to do for these particular situations. Yep.
Maybe just add up on that. Maybe gusto ko lang din malaman kung ano yung mga challenges na napagdaanan mo along the way nung nag-aaral ka ng cloud. Especially you weren't really kind of like an IT or CS guy, diba? You mentioned na you were psychology ba? Tama ba?
Yep.
So how was your paano nangyari? Paano nangyari?
How was the learning curve?
Yeah, we're parang natapon lang ako bigla doon kasi like one time nangyari is ako yung nag-build ng pipeline from dev to to cloud. So may AWS kami doon dati. So what happens is may ginawa lang na instances yung ops namin, then ako yung gumawa ng pipeline to deploy to that. So parang inaral ko na lang to all the way. So parang nagbigay na lang ng parallels nung itong service na to is just like this pero wala sa atin, nasa cloud. So yun, inaral ko na lang. Pero if you are, for example, if you're a student listening to this, or if you're a newbie listening to this, parang fresh hire ka, grad hire ka, and you want to get into the cloud, one of the best na courses I would recommend is yung Azure Fundamentals kay Microsoft Learn. It's really good kasi it just expects you to know that computers exist or to some basically it doesn't even tell you that you need to know how to program kasi walang masyadong code doon. It's just basically if you know about computers, it teaches you about the cloud. Like it's from start talaga kung ano yung advantages ni cloud, what do you need cloud, and then ayun, so moving forward like IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, stuff like that, the basics of cloud. So I think if you want to learn about cloud more, even in general lang, not even specifically kay Azure, it's a good place to start, yung Azure Fundamentals ni Microsoft Learn.
All right. I guess that's it. So paano ka ma-reach out ng mga audience natin, JP? What contacts, socials, how can they reach out to you?
I think you can message me on I'm actually really blind on Facebook with regards to, like, for example, if you don't message me and we're not friends, it doesn't show up kasi on my messenger. So maybe Twitter, you can find me on Twitter. At least that that gets me a notification, or very sure email, you can email me, or pero if you're not comfortable with that, you can just try on Facebook. And if it's a legit query, like kasi sometimes people like ask me like, pwede po pa-solve nitong assignment namin today. No. No. So yeah, pero if it's a legit question, when I find it, if I find it, I do answer really sa Facebook. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I guess that's actually it for today. So very interesting tong na to, podcast episode na to, especially for me na wala naman talagang ganun kalaking background with AI. So I learned a lot actually. This again is one of the things.
And I think marami pa tayong future episodes for JP for sure kasi
Definitely.
like ang dami mo nabanggit, like yung AKS, ACI, yung mga yun. Although, 'di ba? So ang dami pa chatbots. I think it's an own episode of its own So
Yeah,
that's true.
Sige, so marami pa sa susunod.
Alright, so I guess that's it. Again, maraming salamat JP for coming in
Yeah,
into
thank
this
you for having me.
episode. Thank you Michael. And thank you everyone for listening. So I guess that's gonna be it. Alright guys.
Alright.